Also, I didn't get my
so
makeup done
pretty.
for this. I had a photo shoot before. I'm not like deranged.
No, you look so pretty.
Perfect.
Just knowing
thank you.
me, I do sweat.
So go ahead. We were talking about.
No, okay. This is my memory that I had this morning. Is that in 2019 we were at Dante in New York.
Yeah.
And we were sitting at a table. And you were about to move to LA, and you said, "I want to be a talk show host."
That's crazy. That's
And now
nuts.
here we are.
And you were starting your company. What year did you found Quinn?
In 2019. It's
Okay,
been a journey.
I'm so excited to talk to you about it. Before we officially begin, I have a request. So you call it audio erotica. If we mention the word that is spelled PORN, can we call it corn?
Yeah, I think that's wise. I was going to ask you what you wanted to do about
so
that. Yeah.
anyway, that's like 90% of my community knows what I mean when I say corn, but some people still are like, how could you be addicted to corn? I love corn. It's really healthy for you. And I'm like, you are a new follower.
The Wingstop corn. I am
Wingstop-
addicted to it.
By the way, I love Wingstop too. I was just talking about it. Thank you for my gift card, by the way, Wingstop. They sent me a gift card because I was on election night. I was actually awake and I was like, you know what I would really fuck up right now is like a huge Wingstop order. And they like messaged me right away. They go, here you go, Queen. I was like, I love you. Caroline Spiegel,
Should I look here?
you can look wherever. We can
right.
look at each other.
All right,
Founder and CEO of Quinn, the app for audio erotica. But most importantly, in my sorority. No, I'm kidding. I'm so proud of you. Quinn is one of my favorite apps. I talk about it all the time with my community because I think it's so important. And I'm so excited today to learn more about the genesis of this, of your brand, of your company, and what you think of the state of erotica and corn today. So you said you founded it in 2019.
Yeah.
How did you get the idea to start Quinn?
So I started Quinn in 2019. I was at Stanford and I was studying computer science and living an amazing college life. And my junior year, I really struggled with an eating disorder. And I kind of recovered from it. Everything was looking up going into my senior year. But the kind of main lingering side effect was this sense of just like literally no libido. Had difficulty getting turned on, didn't get wet, all these kinds of things that I had taken for granted earlier on in my life. And I started kind of becoming more interested in the sexual wellness space, in the erotic content space. And I found out that there was something like 42 FDA-approved drugs for male sexual dysfunction and 0 for women.
I'm shocked.
I know. There's actually one now called Ad-E, but it leaves much to be desired. It's like it's an injection, it doesn't really work. But there's a lot of reasons why there isn't a pink pill, and we can kind of get into that. But anyway, so I kind of became interested in the space, and I was like, you know what? I would not tolerate the type of products that I'm like seeing in any other space. Like if there was a meditation app that had the UX of Pornhub, I would be like, I'm not using this.
Right.
Like we lower our ethical standards, our content standards, our product standards. And I was like, I want to create an erotic content product that I want to use, a corn product that I want to use.
Yeah.
And I found audio erotica on Reddit and Tumblr. And I fell in love with it. And it was like the only thing that worked for me at this time. So that was the genesis. I dropped out, moved to New York, started Quinn. And really for the first 2.5 years, we had 0 product market fit. It was a lot of failed prototypes and scrapping things and trying again. And in 2021, late in 2021, we launched our mobile app. And since then, we've grown 400% year over year for 2 years.
No way.
Yeah. And things have just really been great since then. But let me tell you, it was not pretty. But it's been just, the most crazy and exciting journey, and most of all just like really amazing to talk to the women who use Quinn and who love it. So yeah.
What's the average age of your user?
So our biggest kind of bucket is 25 to 32.
Okay. And so basically it was the mobile app that really did it.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And just kind of, at the beginning, everything was like Quinn published. So
Right.
It was like all these audios were produced and written by Quinn. And we would get all these emails being like, who's this guy's voice? Like, does he have an email? What's his name? Like, I want to know about him. Is he like actually a professor? Like, what's happening? And we realized that like the creators of it all were actually like what was most important to people. And that's when we kind of shifted the platform to being more creator driven. So now people love Naudio, or they love Anani Fun. Yeah, Naudio is
it's the best.
It's the best.
So what is the mix now between Quinn produced and audience driven content? Also, sorry, before we go on, I just want to, in case anybody isn't familiar, Quinn is an app where you can listen to erotica. So it's like different voices. I'm just explaining it in case people have no idea. You can search by what turns you on. You can search by what kind of voice you want to hear, what kind of content. And then you can hear stories that are anywhere from like 5 minutes to what's the longest one? An hour long, varying degrees of like flames emojis, if you will. And it's the most beautifully designed app. It's really, really stunning and easy to use. And it does that's such an interesting point that I want to come back to in a second about like the user experience and how like obviously a woman would design it well, because it's like, it should be a nice experience. So just wanted to level set, but yeah, you can, it's very easy to use. It's why I talk about it all the time. We'll get into that in a second, but sorry, go on. The split.
No, sorry, I just kind of skipped what it is.
No. It's just, I think it's always good to just explain it in simple terms.
It's like, And the thing about Quinn audios also is that they're more immersive than like an audiobook. So it's not someone being like, and then Sally went to see Rick. It's more like,
there's like
hey,
sounds.
Baby.
Like there's like sounds. You can hear everything. Like it's really, I mean, obviously you guys know me. I like 5 flames emojis, and you can find the ones that do it for you. And honestly, not to make it about me, but just to explain why I like it so much, and I mention this all the time, I like it because it triggers my erotic imagination.
Yes.
And I all the time talk about like orgasm quality. I also talk about orgasm equality. We'll get to that in a second. But orgasm quality, like when I go onto Pornhub and I'm like stressed, I've had a bad day, I need to like bang one out in 5 minutes and go the fuck to bed. It's like a cheap orgasm.
It's McDonald's.
It's McDonald's.
Yeah.
When I listen to Quinn, it's like a wave. It's like the most powerful force in the universe. And I don't feel like, this is my opinion, I don't feel gross after it all. Yeah. And I have zero shame in masturbation, as you guys know. Something about Pornhub, and when I go on, there's something afterwards where I'm like,
slam the laptop shut.
Slam the laptop shut. It's just the experience feels it feels like a service. It feels like I'm like brushing my teeth, and I'm just like, ugh, like, yeah. And the reason I love Quinn so much is I feel like it expands my sexuality. I feel like my imagination is triggered, and I'm able to come in a way that I'm not when I'm on Pornhub. So
totally.
Sorry to talk about myself.
Well, no, totally. And I think there are a few, I mean, we can kind of get into like traditional porn and different things about it. But I feel like one thing also is that it's very prescriptive, and like there's sort of this formula that it follows, that it sort of trains you into thinking, oh, first this happens, then this happens, and you have to look like this and do this. And it kind of ruins our erotic imagination, which is like this. There are so many possibilities, and having sex should be creative and fun and interesting. And it's kind of like, it's like McDonald's versus making a gourmet meal and like really savoring the experience.
Yeah. Before we dive more into Quinn, let's talk a little bit about the state of porn and why, I mean, I'm assuming you agree with me that it's really damaging and it's really dangerous. I am in no way against all of it. I just think that the availability and the amount and the content, we're at a point where it's damaging, and a lot of my community members write in about worries that their partners are addicted to traditional porn.
It's complicated because you don't want to. It's not an anti thing. It's not an anti-sex thing. It's not an anti-sex worker thing. I think it's like on all of us to think about our consumption and like what we let into our lives and how we let it affect our relationships and the way we interact with each other, etc. So I think it's just worth like, probing. And so, okay, so a few things that I think are worth thinking about. So like 1 in 10 men say that they have a porn addiction.
I feel like that number's low.
And I do feel like, that number is a little low. And 50% of men report watching porn every week, whereas like something like 14 or 15% of women do.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like this gender gap situation happening. And I think like a lot of the porn that I see on these tube sites, it's like really degrading to women. And, we all like a little, like, that's fine. Like 50 Shades of Grey has really popularized like BDSM but there's no sort of framework for like consent around that. And it's just a lot of showing women in degrading positions and that being erotic. Right. So if you imagine just like any person who watches videos on Pornhub every single day and you're seeing women like being, I mean, in a lot of cases, like slapped or hurt or abused or just in really rough physical situations. And then you're like going into the workplace and interacting with women as equals and dealing with your girlfriend and your mom and your sister. That's just mentally kind of tricky, you know, of course, to not ever have a conversation about that.
For sure. I know. And I think where we're really running into trouble is that young men are watching that. Like the teenagers, that's their first exposure, oftentimes before they've even been with a woman in real life, is this rather violent in nature. I'm not talking about overtly violent, but it's just like, as you were saying, it's kind of like subtly violent towards women. And it's all adding to this foundation of gender norms in their heads, which are problematic. I don't know if you read that article about the troubling trend in teenage sex a couple months ago in the Times about how this choking has caught on as something that every young girl thinks that they need to say that they like, and that young men are often doing without consent because they think it's the cool thing to do, and how ultimately it is all traceable back to porn and violence against women.
Absolutely. I always say that I'm sex positive, but I'm actually against casual sex because I think it's, especially in college, like, or if you're drinking a lot and you're with strangers, you're with men you don't know, having really rough sex, having sex that involves like choking, that involves like these things that, you know, and you're not even able to discuss sex with this person. You feel awkward or cringy talking to them about it. That's a very precarious and dangerous situation to be in. And sex is a very vulnerable thing. And obviously, I'm not actually against like casual sex with respectful boundaries, et cetera, and like with someone you trust. But I just think that we need to be, as women, more concerned with our own pleasure and our own safety than the pleasure of the men that we're with.
1,000%. So many things I want to respond to there. I, on my podcast, have always been super pro casual sex, saying that I want women to have it more, but with the massive caveat that I also say you should never fake an orgasm. I'm massive on extreme consent and communication before sex, because I had the experience of like, I had a fair amount of casual sex when I was younger, but I didn't really start doing it until I was in my 30s because I was just performing because of what I saw in porn. Because I thought I have to act this way, I have to sound this way. It's a bummer I don't look like that. That's already, you know, points off of my score, you know. It's damaging because, to go back to what you were saying before, I think that it's also just so male oriented, all of the porn.
Yes.
And so a lot of the young casual sex that's happening out there is just like reenacting what they both see in the porn, which is so not erotic to me now when I look at that type of traditional porn, which is so, it doesn't turn me on at all, because it's not, now that I have good sex, I'm like, that's, all I can think of is she's not coming that way. That's all I can think of is she's not coming. Like, she's screaming and you're pounding her in doggy. That's like, that's the craziest fucking thing.
Should we talk about the Dock and Rock?
The Dock and Rock. I mean, yeah. And everyone's always like, and I love this because always in AMA, girls are like, I'm married and I haven't ever had an orgasm.
No, it's like, it's truly
devastating. It's devastating.
And here's what I would say to women also on this note is, think to yourself when you're having casual sex, like, what am I trying to get out of this?
Yeah.
Because if I'm trying to get out of this a sense of worth, a sense of self-esteem, a sense of validation, barking up the wrong tree? Am I trying to get a really amazing sexual exploratory experience, trying something, having fun, feeling good? Great. That's a great reason to, have a very communicative, consensual, casual sex. But do you see what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like you won't, it's cheap fuel. You won't actually feel
1,000%
good in the long run if that's how you're, fueling the self-esteem machine.
I think a lot of women, myself included, to be quite frank, find it hard to untangle the validation that we get from sex versus the pleasure.
It's the biggest issue.
It's the biggest issue. And I still am unpacking that, and I'm still not totally sure where the line is for me. But I think that's all the more reason to really know how to advocate for your own pleasure, make sure that you are orgasming, make sure that you're having a good time, because it is so complicated for women. It is so much more than it is for men. So you really need to know how to be able to get yours, because otherwise it's like, well, then we're in dangerous territory.
Well, because, right, there's like this primary pleasure of the actual pleasure of having an orgasm or having great sex. But then there's this secondary pleasure that women feel of pleasing the man that they're with. And I think to some extent that's really, or, And I'm talking about in heterosexual sex, obviously. But obviously that there's like some goodness to that, and that it should feel good,
of course,
to, please the person you're with and to have that good thing. But it goes a little too far sometimes, and that becomes like the main driver for having sex, is like pleasing the other person and so forth.
Exactly. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what would you tell someone who has never watched porn before and has really barely explored their own body and is really wanting to start? I think Quinn is an amazing place to start. Talk a little bit about why it's an amazing tunnel to knowing how your body works and just kind of growing your own sexuality.
A great thing to do would be to listen to a guided masturbation audio on Quinn. It's kind of like a guided meditation, you might find on Calm or Headspace, but spicy. And I think why that's nice is because sometimes it just is hard to know where to begin. It feels like this whole thing of finding your sexuality and self-pleasure is very ambiguous and hard to parse. And I think having someone give you specific prompts and instructions can be super helpful, and then sort of take it from there. Did I like the sort of gentler aspects of that? Did I like maybe more of the more dominant parts of that? What really resonated with me and made me feel good? What do I want to explore? But the main thing you can't do is be judging yourself. That's instant killer of desire and pleasure. So if you don't schmorgasm, if you don't feel turned on the first time you listen or engage with erotic material, that's okay.
Right.
Just try again. Try something different. Keep going. Just explore, right? Without.
Totally. I think that for a lot of women, the block is they've gone to a certain point in their life, whether it's that they're in a loving relationship, they are a certain age, whatever, and they haven't done it, and then it's just so much pressure. Whether it's they haven't
so much pressure
schmorgasmed, or they haven't ever watched porn, or they haven't ever masturbated. They reach a point, and it's just, this brings up another thing I want to talk about, which is that sex and schmorgasms for women are so mental, and that's another reason why I like Quinn, is because it activates that part of my brain. And I think being able to schmorgasm alone is it's 55 more. It's 60% of being able to schmorgasm with a guy.
Couldn't agree more. It's so important to do that all yourself before expecting someone else to do it, or before it just start with you and you, I think is totally right. And I think that women definitely, and I mean, everyone can benefit from activating their erotic imagination more. And, spicy books, obviously having a major renaissance right now. It's great. That's a great place to start if you want to read out loud with your partner, listen to Quinn with your partner. I think trying to stay away from things that are prescriptive, from things that give you a specific script, or things that will reinforce this idea that you're like broken or not doing it right, or and just that pressure is like a total killer of arousal and desire.
Yeah. One of the stats that made me really sad in the article about choking was that, like, I'm going to butcher the number, a high percentage of young girls, like college age girls who were asking to be choked, had never had a schmorgasm by themselves or with someone else. And again, it's like why it's so important to dismantle this performative aspect of sex, and why I'm so like want to bash everyone over the head about it and talk over and over again and it's again speaking from experience, because it's like I was so performative, and it was all from like my experience of consuming porn and being like, this is what I have to sound like and look like, and I didn't enjoy myself. Like I really didn't. I didn't have a schmorgasm from segs until I was like 23 out of college, and I'd already been doing it for, many years, I wasn't even trying to do it. I was like, oh, I think this is never going to happen. It was like I had a really good boyfriend who was like, I think I know how to do this. But like a lot of guys, most guys, no offense, are not going to take the time.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to like do it yourself, so you can have that power and know that you can, and then advocate for yourself with a guy.
And just as you said, like, take your time. I think that's like honestly a big part of it. We go so fast. We like barrel through sexual interactions, and like even
which, by the way, sorry to cut you off, is because of porn.
Exactly.
Because they're like they kiss for 2 seconds, and then the guy's like, "Well, I'm hard," and and then the girl's like, "Okay, like fine, yeah," and that's not like I want a long foreplay.
Exactly, and I think Esther Perel says something about like foreplay, like.
Begins
like after sex and like until the next time.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Like life is foreplay, and like everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power.
Do you believe that?
I think yes.
I agree. I really do agree. Everything is about sex.
Yeah, and life really is foreplay. Like I think it's really important. Like. It would be so sad if like the only time our life was filled with romance and desire and play was like in the bedroom in the moment you're having sex. It's like no, that of course that's part of flirtation and like the slow burn. Yeah, the foreplay.
Yeah,
it's really important.
What would you say to someone listening who was concerned that their male partner was addicted to porn? It's a tough one.
It's a really tough one.
I get that all the time. And I think also the thing that we haven't like taken it to its furthest conclusion, which is like sometimes porn addiction in men can mean that they're not able to actually get off in the bedroom with like a real live human girl.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not a doctor, but I do think that there's something interesting happening that so many, again, this is totally just observational because I speak to so many young women. Yeah. Sounds like a lot of men are having ED. That's
schmerectile
dysfunction. Sometimes when I say ED, I'm talking about schmerectile. And people are
we're not going to be able to post this anywhere.
And then people are like, wait, the guy has an eating disorder? And I'm like, no, the other ED. So this is going to get us banned from YouTube. But like a lot of them do. And I think it's because our brain was not really built to process that much, and I think, okay, for me, it's like what it does, it trains you to have schmegs like a different way. Even in myself, I'll fall on the sword here. Like, if I am watching Pornhub every day for 5 days and using a toy, and then I'm with like someone I'm seeing, I won't be able to finish. Like I won't be able to, because the lack of sensation, just your brain is like kind of wired into a different way, because your brain is like, oh, well, if we're going to have a schmorgasm, we're going to put something crazy on the screen and you're going to watch it for 3 minutes and then it will be done. Versus this long experience that involves another person. So I think it can be damaging. And I think I don't know, just a hunch, maybe why so many young men are suffering from this right now, because their brains are scrambled. It's like, because it's on your phone. It's not like when we were growing up, it's like, at least you have to like log onto your computer and do it.
Yeah, Quinn is actually very new. Yeah. Like the super graphic at your fingertips, HD, big puss right there is like new. Yeah. It's totally new. And it's, it used to be Playboys under the bed and a totally different type of thing. What I would say to someone who is seeing someone who's struggling with porn addiction, I would say, like, you're not gonna be able to change someone else. And I think just letting them know, like, how excited you are to explore this part of your life together with them, and honestly, I think sex with a real person is not something that any form of media, Pornhub, Quinn can replace, obviously. And it's the best thing. So it's like just really trying, again, taking the pressure off, trying to explore things together, reading stories together, listening to something together. And, there is like medical help for them, but it's a really tricky thing. So I think just, trying to take as a woman, trying to take your ego out of it, trying to take the validation piece out of it and support your partner as much as you can, but ultimately knowing that you can't change someone. Yeah. And, don't bash your head against a wall trying to like break their porn addiction. That's not going to happen.
Right. What do you think about the rise of OF?
Yes, really interesting. So I read something the other day that said, so all OF creators cumulatively made more than all NBA players last year in 2023. So it's crazy. Like $5.3 billion to OF creators and $4.9 billion to NBA players. So from a business perspective, I think they've cracked a major code. Like they are the most successful media company since TikTok, in my opinion. They started in 2016, media platform, I guess, and just like they're now more successful than MindGeek, the owner of PH and all these other types of tube sites. Definitely made some big strides. They have a lot of safety protocols. Creators can make content from the comfort of their own homes. They control, a lot of creators control the whole process from production to publishing to interacting with their fans. And it's really worked for, I think, a lot of people. I do think that there are similar forces at play with OF to the traditional porn industry. So, for example, what used to happen in the porn, or what still happens in the porn industry, is there's like a production company above the performers that's like paying the performers, and there's often a lot of pressure from the production company on the performers to do things, to be a certain way, whatever. And they take they're sort of like predatory production companies that take a lot of money and from the performers and do not really like look out for their best interests, and that can become even more problematic when it's young women who are the performers who maybe last 5 months in the industry, 6 months in the industry. And I really recommend watching Hot Girls Wanted on this topic. It's a Rashida Jones documentary that's really interesting. Anyway, OF has really shifted that a little bit, but there are still now like OF managers and people who will manage your OF account for a cut or get you promotions for a cut of your earnings. And that creates the exact same sort of dynamic as the traditional porn production companies. So it's almost like, in a way, that type of like predatory dynamic has shifted over. And I think the main thing that I see with OF is the vast majority of the paying customers, the paying subscribers are men. Right. And with Quinn, we're kind of trying to reverse that, and most of our paying customers are women.
What's the percentage?
80% of our
that's great
subscribers are women. I don't know why the men are there, but they're probably loving boyfriends.
If you take your segs really seriously, like if you are actually, that's the thing, is like I'm always saying, like if you can always recognize a guy where he's like, you're like, oh, you can get down.
How true is it that you know?
Oh my God. I like, you can tell, like, I don't know. It's so crazy.
Also, when I talk to women, they all have like that one guy, like, Brian or whatever from like 2017. And they're like, he knew.
He knew how to do it. And that's like the only type of guy that I'm interested in seeing.
I know. And it's really important that when you pick like a partner, like you pick like someone who knows. Like,
yeah. I know. I have like some pretty radicalized views about it. Like, I'm like, unless a guy loves going down, like there's only two options. He either eats it like it's his last meal or he eats it like he, is like eating something he's allergic to. Like there's really only two options.
Yeah.
You know which option you want to go for.
There's a creator on Quinn named Anani Fun.
Oh, I know.
And he's known for, he eats it like his life depends on it.
Yeah.
And that's like that's what's required.
And what's
that's
crazy is like
asked.
once you've had that, you can never go back. So the dating pool gets even smaller. Great. Fuck our lives, guys. Yeah. Okay. What's the most popular category on Quinn?
Great question. The most popular is boyfriend. Followed by, I know.
Fuck. Why are we so gentle?
Followed by MDOM. Though that's our other side, right? So,
okay, cool.
And some months actually MDOM will supersede boyfriend, but those are so MDOM is like male in a dominant role. Mm-hmm. So that's like your Christian Grey type audio.
Did you know what the most popular search word is?
I don't right now, but I was just reviewing our top searches from last month.
Yeah.
And the top search word was professor.
Probably because of that one.
Which one?
That one professor story is on my favorites. I'll show you later.
Oh,
You
on
know
Quinn.
Yeah. This is so hard to like unpack and unlearn, but I know there's a lot of women who really struggle with shame around self-pleasure for a multitude of reasons. Religion, just societal pressure, internal shame, maybe like whatever. What do you have any helpful tips? Because this kind of all came from you recovering from your eating disorder, because I have found that actually like self-pleasure and taking nudes has been the most instrumental step forward in my body acceptance. And I always say that. And it's like you kind of have to do it for yourself, and it's all connected. So what would you say to someone who's like wants to explore themselves but has shame?
You know, it's funny that you say that, because in a weird way, like eating and hunger, there's a lot of like weird similarities with sex and desire, because they're both these like really human needs, and you need to really kind of like accept yourself and be in your body and be like embodied, as people say, you know, to like be in touch with that stuff. And it's really important. I think to someone who's feeling shame around self-pleasure, I mean, one other thing is like a lot of women just feel shame and disgust about their
Body
TikTok
parts?
word. Yeah, their body parts down there, you know, and that's really hard to overcome too.
So hard. I just had a question on Instagram AMA about this, and I get them from time to time, and they're always usually from younger girls, and it really breaks my heart. And I blame Quinn 110% for this.
And you know, men are like obsessed with their genitalia.
Obsessed, but totally. And it's
That's
like
what gets me.
they're obsessed with it, but then there's also like a really dark side of incel kind of culture that makes comments on women's parts. And I this video came up on my page the other day, and it was a girl. She was young. She was in her 20s for sure. And she was saying like, oh my God, guys, it's funny. Like when I'm standing there, my one lip is just kind of out like this. And she was like being cute about it. Everyone was like, oh, LOL, me too. And like the top liked, I went to the comments to see what people were saying. And the top like comment was, oh, that's because of overuse. Like you shouldn't have been like the town bike. Like that's actually unfortunately what happens when you have too much sex. And it was from a guy. And it was from a guy. And people were coming to her defense, and they were like, you have never been with a woman. Like you're an incel.
Yeah.
But these things like they slip into the collective, and on some level women absorb them.
Right. That's one big concern with Quinn. It's not that that it's turning your average Joe into a grapist, right?
Right.
It's more these like insidious messages that go through, that run through culture of like, men are dominant, women are submissive, men can, you know, make derogatory comments about women's bodies. And, you know, I think in general, it's on like all of us, and particularly men. Like if you hear a guy friend of yours being like, oh, like she's a 10, like that's not cool. Like that's not funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Or maybe that's like too benign, I think. But just like be kind and like give each other grace. I think it's like so important. And also I think we're just gonna have to, like, if any of us want to keep having sex with each other, like we're gonna have to accept that we're all really imperfect. Yeah, none of our lips are even or whatever.
No, like I know, it's crazy.
And I think also when you're with like we were talking about, like men who get it kind of thing, like you can feel a level of acceptance and wait until you feel that, right?
Wait until you feel that, guys, because if you haven't felt it, it's truly the best thing in the world. And you feel so much hotter when you're with a guy who gets it.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're starting that now because this community is very like receptive and they love like little nuggets and names. Like, it's a guy who gets it. So when you're calling me for the show or when you're writing in, if you're talking about a guy who gets it, let me know, because when you know, it's the best thing. Like and you'll know.
You'll literally know.
You'll know. And the little signifiers, they'll say that they like things about your body that you might previously have felt shame about. They'll want to like touch your stomach, like even if you feel like, oh, my stomach's not flat. When a guy, like, I just always find that so erotic when he wants to like touch your stomach, like, it's so fucking hot. Or like when he'll say something about your lady bits that you were previously like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, and he'll be like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with that. That's how you know you're with a guy who knows.
And I think also like safety, a feeling in your body of feeling safe with someone, that's the vehicle to really great sex.
1,000%. And your body does kind of know.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I do feel like it. Like I was seeing a guy this year for 4 months and he never made me cross the finish line. And that's wild for me. Don't ask me how I got into that situation. Don't ask me why I put up with it for 4 months. I need more time to pass before I speak my truth on that situation. But anyway, your body knows.
Why do you think you did that?
I'll tell you after.
Did you fake it?
Yeah, which is also so hypocritical of me, and I like to call myself out when I'm hypocritical because I understand that
everyone does.
No, but I have like I have a big platform with lots of young women who listen to me, and I have a podcast episode called "Why You Should Never," I mean never fake a schmorgasm, and you go back and listen to that episode because everything rings true. But you know what? Yeah. This is why I have these rules. This is why I have these, checks and balances, you guys. And because look at what happens when I don't follow them. Don't finish for 4 months. Yeah. You best believe I was on Quinn every night when after I would see him, I'd come home, I'd be like, fire it up.
That's a classic.
Yeah. Where shall we go next? What's the biggest surprise you've had in founding Quinn? And that can be like as a CEO, as a founder, or like about the corn industry. What's been shocked you?
I think from a founder perspective and like from the company running perspective, I think I overestimated what I could do in a year, but underestimated what I could do in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and onwards. Like, I think I tend, and maybe everyone tends to have really high expectations in the near term, and underestimate what just like putting one foot in front of the other every day really like can compound to something. And that like every overnight success is actually like an 8-year success that you just found out about overnight. And I think, just like the power of perseverance, that's what's been surprising to me. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything, I guess, from like more about the content of Quinn, or like just that women are the most shrewd consumers you will ever. Like they make all of the household decisions. They have the most purchasing power in our society. Don't BS them. Don't like feed them fluff. Like they just cut right to the core. Anytime we try to yada something or like kind of pull the wool over their eyes, like obviously we would never do it on anything important, but like I find that women just know and are very smart customers. Yeah.
I love that. Sorry to switch gears and go back on something, but this is such a common question that I wanted to ask you. Yeah. A lot of AMAs I get will say, do you think that watching corn is cheating? Obviously it's not.
Oh, interesting.
But talk about the situation we find ourselves in today where corn is available 24/7. Yeah. And what is the difference between watching corn and following a beautiful swimsuit model on Instagram, and like what's the intersectionality of that, and how should we think about it as straight women who date straight men?
I think corn in general, it's like anything's okay in moderation. I think listen to your intuition. If you feel like your partner has like an unhealthy attachment, or if you start developing an unhealthy attachment to a content creator who makes erotic content, like you hear stories about people whose boyfriends have kind of an emotional attachment to OnlyFans creator or something. And I think it's just like, listen to your intuition. You're probably right. Be upfront about the situation, but don't think that you can control or make them change, and just be like, I think on this question of, I mean, I'd be curious what your advice is for people who have partners who are liking a lot of Instagram models. Like, I think just say like, listen, it really makes me sad. It hurts my feelings. It doesn't make me feel good. I would really appreciate it if you stopped. And then if they don't stop, break up with them.
I'm okay with my boyfriends and partners watching Quinn.
Yeah.
But I would never date someone who followed Insta baddies. And,
Right.
I know that's confusing, but like, let me try to unpack it.
Yeah.
I will be so real with you guys. I think that guys who follow hot girls on Insta are the biggest fucking losers. Like, I think that it signifies something that is so embarrassing. Like, you're following this girl who like you think is pretty, who you're never going to meet. Like, that's so cringe to me.
Yeah.
And that's a judgment. That's like, for me personally, I just don't think that I would ever be into someone who did that.
I need someone who like doesn't know how to use Instagram.
Totally. But like, even more realistically, I need a guy who can like get it in real life.
Yeah.
Because if that, to me, it's like, if you're doing that, you're not getting laid that much. So
It's so embarrassing.
I find that embarrassing. Here's a really interesting moral dilemma, modern moral dilemma. It's weird because I think that OF is amazing because for the most part, it puts the money in the hands of the creators.
Exactly, right.
That being said, if you gave me a choice of like my boyfriend subscribing to multiple OF accounts or watching Pornhub, for some reason, I prefer Pornhub. Why is that, do you think?
I think maybe because psychologically it feels like Pornhub, it's like Netflix almost.
Yeah,
whereas like,
yeah.
it's like, it's not though, like
It's
ethically,
not.
but like,
but it's like everybody does it. Everybody has it. Like,
it's just a bunch of different shows, right? But it's like, fans feels more like, oh, he liked her and he liked her and he wanted them, you know?
Right.
But I do think it's important. There's also what I think is great is if you want to watch visual porn, there's like sites that are like more like artistic visual porn that you could watch together and buy like a subscription together, or Quinn and listen together, and like still pay for your porn, but maybe in a way that feels better. So maybe like suggesting something like that.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't know. That's a weird double standard I have, but
you know what's really hot is having your partner read like an erotic novel out loud to you.
oh, that's so hot.
I know. That's like my favorite first like suggestion if you're having like a lull.
I'm corny.
It's like making your own Quinn at home.
I'm corny just thinking about it, honestly. Yeah. I like guys who are really like down to clown in that way. Like
Yes.
I'm very like, and honestly, a lot of the times the girls will ask me, they'll be like, oh my God, like how can you ask guys that? Or like, how can you say that? And I'm like, I like to talk about it like before we do it. Like I'm so weird. I'm like, what's your kink? Like, what do you like? I like this and that. Like it, to me, it makes it so much more like fun, and I don't know. I love it so much. I mean, Schmegs is the best. Where do you think the future of what's next for Quinn? Do you have it like what's directionally, where is this going, and where does Quinn fit in the constellation of corn?
You know, we really want to be like sort of the OF for women, but even like really pushing like this type of erotic content into the mainstream even further. So like our Quinn originals, our celebrity voiced audio erotica series. I don't know if I'm allowed to say erotica. I think I am.
This episode is going to get banned anyway. So
audio series.
Yeah.
And that will help. Like, I want to be a company that can have a Super Bowl ad, even though we are this like, you know, spicy company.
Wait, can we do that? Can we make that happen?
Yeah, it'll be you with the headphones.
It'll be me being like, hey, by the way, can I do a story? I want to do one.
Oh my God,
I
yes, you should write one. Or read one.
I would love to. I think people would like my lisp in their ear when they're trying to get off.
What theme would you do? Like someone comes on to like do a podcast with you and one thing leads to another.
I would probably do like, I don't know, my favorite category, which like is like a lot of what Naughty-O does and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
He just did one at a carnival.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Inspired by that song that's like, go, 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 ride that dick like a carnival. By the way, me and my best friend were singing that song the other day, and we were like, what writer of songs was sat in a, they were like, okay, what do you ride a dick like? Like, oh, you ride it like a carnival, like, yes, and then make a whole song. It's like also so angry sounding too. He's like, go, 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 ride that schmick like a carnival. Okay, well, this episode is getting banned. All right, well, where can people find you? Where can people download Quinn?
So you can download Quinn by searching Quinn, Quinn, in your app store.
Wait, why'd you call it Quinn? I can't believe I didn't ask.
Oh, why did I call it Quinn?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a not good story.
Oh.
When I was working on Quinn in the beginning, I was going to name it Gasm, Gasm.
Thank God you called it
Quinn.
I
did not. And then
Gasm.
I had the idea to do Delia, not Delilah. Like, what was I on? And then this guy I was working with at the time said that he had a crush on a girl named Quinn. And I was like, wait a second. I kind of like that. It's androgynous. It's techie. It's a little cute. So we went with it.
It's a sexy name. It's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so download Quinn anywhere you get your apps, right?
Yes, that's right. And follow us at Try Quinn.
Do you want people to follow you personally?
You don't have to.
Okay. Follow Try Quinn. Caroline, thank you so much for coming on. And more importantly, thank you for upholding the legacy of our lineage. We are
Dynasty.
We're called the Dynasty. So yeah, go Theta. Thanks for coming. Bye.